Hi, everybody.
Hi, everyone.
We're here.
So happy to be here.
We are here. We are here.
Mm-hmm.
We're here.
We're live.
We're live,
in
and
the
we're
present.
here in the
in flesh. It's true.
We are alive.
Mm-hmm.
You are alive,
Mm-hmm.
and we're so happy to be here. Kim
Yes.
Stanwood, Terranova,
Yes.
John Jacob Mubarak. We're here live at Rhythmia, and I want to tell you what's going on. Let's see here. We are broadcasting live from the downtown studios in beautiful downtown Guanacaste, the bustling metropolis, here on property at Rhythmia. Can I tell you what's going on at Rhythmia? While my beautiful sister sits here with me and
to go like this
is
and frame him.
Go,
JJ, go.
So we're open. Rhythmia is open. I want to invite you to come down because guess what? Kim is our guest speaker next week. Calm down. There's still limited space available, going fast. Check out, Kim is going to be our guest speaker next week at Rhythmia. And here's what's going on at Rhythmia. In case you didn't know, we've been open since November. It's easy to fly down to Costa Rica. You don't need to get a test to come in. All you need is to fill out a little form and get some traveler's insurance. And that's it. It's super easy. You come down, and we at Rhythmia are doing testing before you arrive. Before you check in, everybody is tested on property. So anybody that comes on is tested COVID-free. Then we do follow-up testing during the week for the staff and for the guests. And then you need a negative COVID test to get back in the United States. No worries. We do that right here because we're a medically licensed facility. We have the lab, we have the microbiologists, we have the MDs. So we do the test right here. You don't have to leave. It's ready for you when you get back, when you get to the airport. And here's the good news. Since we've opened in November, we have not had one person have a positive COVID test to go back to the United States or Canada. Not one.
That's amazing.
Pretty amazing. So all of the protocols are in place for you to come and enjoy Rhythmia, the transformation that's here. And next week, our beautiful guest and fabulous sister and dear friend, Kim Stanwood Terranova. I was going to read you her bio, but you know what? I don't need it. Kim Stanwood Terranova. Let me tell you about this beautiful being who has devoted over 25 years of her life to the pursuit of truth, to knowing the truth, not only for herself, centering herself daily in that truth, but knowing it for others. And if you want to know something about the consciousness that heals, it's the consciousness that sees wholeness only all the time. And that's what I know about you, Kim.
That was beautiful.
You see wholeness. That's everywhere you go. You see wholeness.
Yes.
This is the consciousness that heals. In addition to being a place where more God, more good, more love, more beauty, more intelligence can communicate through to be an opening for God. Kim also has an amazing book, The Technology of Intention. Covering up my face.
Don't cover up your face.
This book is amazing, amazing. And it is a technology. We're going to talk a little bit about intention and the wisdom that Kim has encapsulated in this book for all of us. And she sees private clients. And let me tell you, some of her clients, pretty amazing.
I'm really blessed.
I've met a few of them. Pretty amazing. Confidentiality prohibits me from telling you who they are. That's what we do as practitioners. However, powerful being here. I'm so grateful to have you here, Kim.
Thank you, JJ. That was beautiful. We don't get to sit like this often. This is nice. We may do this more often just to be like, hey.
I would like that.
Let's catch up. Let's catch up together.
So speaking of catching up, let me give a little shout out to all these beautiful souls that have
come. Oh my goodness.
Sarah. Hey, Sarah from Belgium. Abby, great to see you. Shelly, beautiful. Thank you so much. You're going to be here in August. Excellent. We'll be here.
We'll be here.
And Dorota, so great to see you. Linda, Young, Thomas, JJ, and Kim. She says, I was just there in April. And it was so nice to have a week with no masks.
Yes.
Excellent. And Shelly's experiencing Kim through Rhythmia Life. Beautiful. Hi, family. Liliana, Ishan, beautiful from London. Uta from Germany. Thank you all. Shout out to everybody.
This is so much fun. We're like right here with you right this moment. It still trips me out.
I know, right?
It's just so great.
So
the whole technology. Yes.
Kim, let's talk a little bit about next week.
Oh, next week is going to be great.
Tell us. I know it's hard to look here. I don't know whether
it is. I'll keep going
we
back.
We'll do back and forth.
We'll just keep going like this. Like, hey, JJ. I'm so honored to be able to be the guest speaker. And next week, it's all about living in an awakened consciousness. And it's so evident in life right now, the importance of staying awake. And lots of times we talk about that, but it's like there's a whole technology to stay awake and alert, and it's necessary at this time in human history. And if we fall asleep, we're going to fall right under the guise of victim mentality and what's happening in the world, and we can't impact it, and we can't. And the world wants us to. And it's necessary to really up-level the tools to live as global citizens. So we've got a whole week to talk about global citizenship, staying awake in consciousness, knowing what that means. Where do we stand with each other in the world and acceptance? And what's the path to do that? Because that's, to me, what the world is calling for, saying we have an opportunity right now to shift the whole paradigm of where we're living in the world. And if we're awake and alert, then we're in choice of which direction we're shifting it. Are we still going to stay in some areas of judgment and separation? Or are we going to open our hearts wider and really step back into meeting each other again without masks, without like standing healthy, whole, present, to what are we creating now?
I want to ask you a question about that, because I love the way that you said, if we don't stay awake, we slip into victim consciousness, right? That something's happening to me.
Yes.
And I've been through some life circumstances, right? Life happens, stuff happens. And felt the pull to fall into a story about it. And what I've come to recently is that it's a both and, right? That there's this acknowledgement of how I'm feeling in the circumstance. Something happens.
Yes.
And I want to not bypass those feelings.
Correct.
And yet at the same time know the truth.
Yes.
And so it's this, I've been in this both and.
I love that you say both and, because we don't ever have to have a spiritual bypass. We could stay awake and say, this is hard. Like, I'm having a hard day.
Yes.
And acknowledge this moment is challenging. These things are going on in my life. And, which what you just said, I still know the truth. I still know that there's one power that's guiding me. And I'm going to lean into that power right now, because the circumstances look difficult. And when we can't see from our eyesight, this through the circumstantial evidence, we have to lean into the truth of that inner eyesight and trust that we can see this. This is what's happening. And for a moment, it feels like I'm stuck. And I simultaneously am going to lean into the presence to catch the truth in this circumstance. So then the circumstance is rich material for us to grow through. And it doesn't mean it feels good. It doesn't mean it. It means that we lean into each other, right? And to friends and family to say, just remind me who I am. So the staying awake takes a community.
Yes, yes.
It takes us to look at one another and say, I love you and I know who you are, bigger than the circumstance that you're in. Sometimes, and I'm sure you've done this as well, I'll say to my clients, these are ones who've been with me for a while, not when you sit with me for the first time, I may say, I can't, hold on, I want to get it right. I would not be honoring you if I agreed with your self-imposed limitations right now. Doesn't always go over well. No, I'm teasing. No, what I mean by that is when I'm walking with someone for a long time and they bring their story to the room, we look at it, we lift it up, we see what's being birthed underneath it, what needs to be released. And we do this in large groups here at Rhythmia as well, which is so beautiful. But simultaneously, if I agree, you're stuck. If I take a stand and go, I agree, you're not getting out of this, then how am I honoring you?
Absolutely.
So I get to honor where you're feeling, what's going on, and then assist you to remember who you are in the midst of that circumstance. And that's what I want you to do for me, is to remind me who I am when I fall.
And that's really, so two things, really beautiful things came out in my mind from what you were saying. First is the phrase arguing for your limitations. Right? Like that's the story that we get into, but this is really hard. And we begin to build a case for why this is reality. And my limitations are true. At the same time, we don't want to just be in that spiritual bypass, right? That everything's fine, everything's going to be fine, right? That's the both and. And then the next piece was this community, right? This is the beautiful thing about being a practitioner and having a practitioner, right? Is that everybody, every single person needs some somebody to know the truth for and about them when we forget it ourselves.
Yes. And that's what we know as practitioners, is that we could sit with individuals and know the spiritual truth for them in the midst of the circumstances that they're living in. So I love that, both end.
Both end.
Yeah. And no buts.
No buts.
Lately in class, always telling people, your butt is for sitting on. Just sit on it or get it out the door, because it's not like, yeah, I know that, Kim, but let me tell you why I can't live it. If that's a conversation, then I'm still agreeing with your limitations instead of I hear you and can I assist you to see yourself rightly and expand your vision of what's possible and help you with the tools to get there.
And sometimes I think we've all had the experience of going through something, and then on the other side of it, right, there's some bit of knowledge, some blessing, some lesson, something that we learned, something that changed the whole experience that's better than we could have imagined. But when we were in it, we couldn't see it.
Always. Years ago, a dear friend called and said, and something very challenging was happening in their lives. And she said to me, why, Kim, why did this happen? Why did this happen to my family? And I said to her, if there's any way that right now you could just take that question and put it to the side, like take why and put it over here. And let's just ask another question today. We'll get to why, but right now, what question can you ask that will help you rise up so that you'll find answers, understandings, healings in the question? What's possible for us now? What is being birthed in this situation that is painful, that must come through us? What am I to know now? Any of those questions, because that helps us through when we can't see to the other side. As you just mentioned, there's always something that occurred that was for our highest good. But if we stay in why me, why did this happen? Why me? What's wrong with me? Then we stay stuck in this. We're just like, stirring the brew of the story and getting that story bigger and bigger. And then when we're sleeping, it's, goes to a whole nother realm.
And because we've had the experience, every single one of us have had that experience of on the other side of it, I wouldn't have wanted to go through it, but I got something out of it. Then we can trust in our current experience. Like, okay, I might not be able to see it now, but I remember the last time, the last 5 times, the last whatever, that there was some good that I didn't see in the middle of it. So we can trust that that's coming, even though we can't see it right now.
If we've cultivated the pearls of that journey. If we haven't cultivated the pearls, and I have a whole chapter on this in the book, it's like, we really have to cultivate our pearls to know, to build that trust. We've got to cultivate, who did I become? What did I grow through acknowledgments? So when we're on the other side, the why gets answered, but we're then transformed into, I'm a being that is more trusting, more expansive, more understanding, stronger than I knew. All those pearls, whatever they are, to assist us when the next wave circumstance hits, that we remember, wait a second, I've got a bag of pearls here that I learned from the last one that have to be ignited right now.
I have a feeling there's some comments on here, and I have a feeling that they're going to speak to exactly the continuation of this conversation. Shall we take a look?
Please.
Okay, so Stefan says, JJ, I get that you are superhuman when your back feels up against the wall, but you don't need crisis to activate your power. My 2 cents, singing to the choir. Okay.
We like to sing to the choir. We like that.
Yes, I love that phrase, when your back's against the wall, because those are the most transformative moments when we finally, it's like, okay, my little egoic self can't make it happen, can't force it through, my back's against the wall, hands up. That's when I get to lean into God. That's when I get to lean. I
was just thinking that.
Yeah.
Because that's the lean. I wrote an article this morning for Inner Visions, finished it, and it's about leaning. Like, where are we leaning? If your back's against the wall, we can look at it as, I'm leaning into the presence so that I'm gaining that momentum, the wisdom of the presence to remember who I am, to move through this circumstance. So our lean in is so vitally important.
Yes. Say a little bit more about the lean in. So much blind solitude here. Connecting with people that are awake is the utmost. Truthfulness can be the challenge.
Hold on, I wanted to read that again.
Right. I'm trying. So much blind solitude here. And then she has the Canadian flag. Blind solitude in Canada, maybe. Colleen, we're reading your text here. Connecting with people that are awake is the utmost heart. Truthfulness can be the challenge.
Okay, so can I speak to that to the best of I understand, Colleen?
Yes.
Truthfulness can be the challenge, and I believe we're being called to activate spiritual practices to express truth. That we can express truth with really clear intentions to still connect, be kind, stand in acceptance, to find the place with others where we can accept one another even if we don't agree. So it's an opportunity right now, I believe, for us to really look at whether it's countries, whether it's individuals, where can we stand in acceptance? And we may not agree, but we aim to know, I'm going to stand here and still have conversation with you. I'm going to still expand. Let me get under this to understand more so I could live in acceptance. From acceptance, we gain compassion. Mm-hmm. And then we could have a bigger possibility to have a deeper conversation. So it's the awakening seems like possibility. My aim is that it's a possibility for us to stay awake to those deeper conversations that are difficult. They're difficult, but we still can do them.
And the other principle here that came to mind while you were speaking is that there's no lack in God. There's no the universal principle of the equality, the equanimity of God, that my good can't take away from your good, right? That there's enough good, that there's, it's not. And so when we're talking about being truthful, then my truth, if I'm speaking my truth, it can't hurt you when I'm speaking from that place. Therefore, and the experience that I've had in those moments when it's difficult, when I'm nervous about speaking my truth, maybe to another person, but there's something, I'm finally getting centered in myself that I can, all right, I don't want to have this conversation, but I'm going to speak this truth because this is what's true for me. It always ends up that they're like, oh my God, I'm so glad that you said that. It released something for them to be able to speak their truth. And the situation was healed, or it was resolved, because the principle is me speaking my truth can't be a detriment to you.
Beautifully
is that
said. Yes, and
okay?
I always said I don't go near those conversations without a super clear intention.
There
like
we go.
I don't go near them, and for the purpose so that I could be present and awake and connect. That's my intention in going towards those conversations. When we have an intention to connect, to create safety, to listen to one another, to open dialogue that may temporarily be uncomfortable, our intention is going to be the driving force. So then when it gets difficult, we can breathe through it. We could look at someone and say, I'm having a really hard time. Just stay here with me. Well, I do my best to speak the next sentence. We have to be open and vulnerable with one another to do that. But our intentions back us up before we even get in the door. Absolutely. So then the through line is clear.
So that's perfect, because we have a question here from Jewel Des. Hey, Jewel Des. Great to see you. Love you too. She says, I love you both. But then she has a question. Kim, is intention the same as effort and commitment?
Wow, what a question. Is intention the same as effort and commitment? Hold on. Different vibration than effort, and commitment is in intention, is the best way I could say that.
I would agree, yeah.
Do you agree?
Yes.
So, and now I just have to say this because this is really important. Every word lands differently on each of us. So for me, the word effort is a push, not a lean in. So that word for me would be like, oh, if I'm efforting, I'm pushing instead of leaning into the presence. Intention is an aim, if I could say that. It's more of an aim than an effort and a push. We're really clear that our intention is based in qualities, present moment, positive. So we're aiming for, my intention is to connect with this being. Today, coming in here, there's no way I was going to do this today without having intention.
Yes.
And my intention is to connect authentically and openly and share with you so that we could have an open dialogue with others. And if I didn't set that, there could be hidden expectation. What if the air conditioning doesn't work? What if people don't show up? But who knows what the story could have created? But the intention keeps the aim clear. So spirit is assisting, fulfilling that intention, because spirit's always saying yes. Keeps us out of expectation, keeps us out of any push. We're in creation. So our intentions are our aim, our lasered focused line of this is where I'm aiming, spirit just saddles up with us, then everything in the universe conspires for us to lift that intention. And if something needs to be released, it'll be released. But we keep our aim. So there's commitment to keeping the aim in the intention.
The other thing that I love about working with intention, and especially the way that you talk about it in the book, is it's broad, right? Like there's something bigger. For example, using the example of today's talk,
yes,
or of our interview today, like the intention is to commit to what did you say? To
my intention is to connect with JJ. That was first and foremost, because I wanted to connect with you and to share and be open and authentic in all of our sharing today.
So that could happen even if the air went out.
Correct.
That could happen even if nobody showed up.
Correct.
Right. So that there's something around intention being really broad, rather than my intention is to have 75 people show up on the live stream and to have everything be perfect.
Correct. And they're in qualities. They're not in, certain outcomes.
Yes.
So the outcome would be 75 people need to be here, or if something goes amiss today, it's not going to be a good day. That's an expectation.
Right.
And intention is really on the qualities of what we want to experience. So we could still be specific. We could still aim, but then we have to let go. The key with intentions is it's not just me, it's not just you. It's the lean in, because we're specific, but let go. So we don't know how we're going to connect. We don't know how we're going to share openly, who's going to show up, but the intention is that's going down.
Connection, open sharing, heartfelt,
Yes.
right? Communication,
Correct.
all of those pieces. I also, when I work with clients, we always set an intention before the session, right? What is your intention for the session today? And usually, most of the session is working on refining that intention, because sometimes the intention might be not affirmative. It's not an affirmative intention, or it's outcome oriented, right? And so unpacking that seems to be a lot of, great insight. And
yes.
By the time we refine that intention, the intention itself is complete.
Beautiful.
Do you find that refining intention, I guess, is the question?
Yes, I'm giggling because my clients that work with me forever, they know that question's coming out. And they've worked with me long enough to know that their intentions are pretty clear when they begin. You know what I'm saying? After they've been coming a while, right?
Right.
So they know, okay, wait, here's my intention. And then the refinement is honoring their words and what rises up. So I may ask questions like you do about, okay, are you aiming for this or are you aiming for that? So the refinement just brings them more clarity to then aim and let go. So I would say there's not as much refinement. It's sharing and really understanding, where does that word land for you? What does that mean for you? Because if I've had people come and say, Kim, write me an intention about this. And I'll say, and tell me what you want to feel. What do you want to experience? Because if they're my words, what if they don't vibrate with you? It's years ago, I have to use this as an example because it's so funny. Years ago, the very beginning at Rhythmia, I was teaching class, teaching intentions. And we had this beautiful young surfer come, and she's sitting there. She's loving it. She's writing her intentions, and she comes to class, and she goes, Kim, you're going to love this. And I go, what? She goes, I set my intention today. And I go, brilliant. What is it? And she goes, my intention is to rage. I was gone. Right there. I was like, oh my gosh, rage. Now, for me, the word rage has a vibration that I wouldn't put in my intention. It's just not like it. It represents something. And I made the mistake to say, can we work with that? Can we talk about that for a minute? And she looked at me like she was stunned, like,
what could be possibly wrong?
What is my intention? And so then when she looked at me like that, it hit me like, oh, thank you, Spirit. And I looked at her and go, you're a surfer. And she said, yes. And I went, so rage to you. And before I even finished the sentence, she was become one with the ocean. Like I'm raging across it. And I went, oh my gosh, your intention is perfect. For her, that was perfect.
Right.
So we have to each honor what words fit with you. So that to me is the refinement.
That's great.
Right?
What a great example.
It was hysterical. It was because there was a moment that I was like, oh my gosh, I'm teaching this wrong. What's going on? Why is she on a rage? And then it was so much fun to think, That's her word. And that's a perfect word for her.
Beautiful.
Right.
So can we talk about a little bit more about
Sure,
your book?
sure.
Right. So there's this wonderful, interwoven through your book. And it's, I read it when it first came out. And so I'm recalling,
It's okay, I'll remind you.
You interwove a lot of your personal story, right? So let's go back to your story of germination, your story of awakening. I find it so fascinating.
The very beginning?
Yeah.
Wow.
Or whatever came up for you when I said that. Your story, because I know we've had many moments of awakening along the path, right?
Yes.
So whatever moment is that comes to your mind, but that moment of germination, because we've all, and I think people that come to Rhythmia too, have this awakening. There's an activation that occurs, but ostensibly life around it hasn't changed. And the activation is working, and we kind of feel there's this germination process, this moment, tremendous activation, tremendous change is going on, but the outside circumstance hasn't quite changed yet. Did you have a moment like that in your?
Oh my gosh, my entire upbringing.
Okay.
Because I kept looking around like, why don't people want to talk about this? What I had somebody say to me the other day, he said, like, you were doing this in high school? Like, you were saying to me, don't you want to understand the workings of the universe? Don't you want to catch, like, what's possible for us to create? And people looked at me like, no.
No, we're going to go rage.
Yeah, exactly. So I think that my life situation, it was, what I was feeling inside wasn't matching my life situation. And when it became so painful, and I love that Reverend Michael says, we're either pushed by the pain or pulled by the vision. I was pushed by the pain till I finally ran into someone, Spirit brought to me, someone who kind of lifted me up and said, wanted to have these conversations. And I'm like, and I was in college, and she's like, we could have these conversations. And I'm like, you're kidding me. Where are you from? Where are you studying this at? And she took me to a spiritual center. And it was a Science of Mind spiritual center. And then I like walked in the door, and all of a sudden there's like-minded souls, which I feel at Rhythmia.
Totally.
It's like, so it's funny when you ask the question, it's like, that was the first germination. And now years later, the beautiful germination that still happens here all the time is that essence of, whoa, I'm in like-minded souls that want to grow and understand more. And we get that every day in class here, which is so beautiful.
Yeah.
And I mean it when I look at people and say, oh no, by the end of the week, you're all going to be in love with each other, because we are, because we don't,
That's
to
true.
grow together in community just lifts us all higher. And to know at the beginning, I didn't feel like I had community. I felt like I was alone in the world and couldn't figure this out, and started practices. And what got me to grow past the outside world looks so different than the inside was my practice. The more, what I learned in that first day was I got to start practicing. What do I practice now? And then the evolution was to keep practicing, keep studying. Who can I study with now? Where can I grow now, so that I could live what I'm knowing? And when I fall, get back up, practice again. It's just that patience and practice to not give up. It's hard.
Okay, Jules wanted to ask you a question about your house and overcoming that adversity.
I was going to talk about that. That's the first thing that popped in. So thank you when you asked me, because I love
that. Was a big moment of transformation, back against the wall.
Back against the wall. And it was after years of living in practice, and really growing through some difficult things, and finally feeling like, whew, I think I could breathe now. So it's been 2 years now. Yeah, 2 years now that I know, isn't that shocking?
2 years.
That I walked a client out of my office on a Friday afternoon, and was it a Friday afternoon or Thursday afternoon? Can't remember. And smelled smoke. And I have a retreat center home office in the Malibu Hills. And when I walked her out and smelled smoke, little did I know that within 24 hours, everything, the entire mountain, everywhere I could see, and my place is right on the top of the mountain, was completely charred as that fire came rolling through at 70 miles an hour. And within one night, home, office, structure, everything I ever owned was just gone, was ash. And that transfer, if I didn't have, it gets me weepy.
Yeah.
If I didn't have a really solid bag of tools, I think I would have joined the ash. I think I would have crumbled into the ash, because it was so devastating on the outside to look at, again, it's interesting of your question, to look outside and think everything that I've known physically is gone in one night. Is such a jarring. See, that's important. Something's telling us something right there, right?
Yeah.
It's like, woo, love those notes. So that moment of, if I didn't have my practice, a huge tool bag, I don't think I could have gotten up. And it was, Reverend Michael called me like when he found out. So it was like the next day, and said, you're going to be okay. You're going to get through this. And he said, I know you may not know it right now, but you're going to get through this. And he said, you have what you need to get through this, and we're going to help. And that memory of someone reminding me, community again, you're going to move through this. You're not going to stay stuck. And I honor how painful this must be right now. And then right after that, I don't know if it was the next day or something, I used my practice, and I stood in the middle of all this like destruction and just asked, like, what is my intention now? Like, what can my intention be now? Because I don't know I can't even think about that. But I knew to ask the question. And in asking the question and then listening to spirit, there was a real clear guidance that just was loud and clear of like, Kimberly, you have to master flexibility. And when you're standing in the middle of a charred mountain and you hear spirit say, you got to master flexibility, it's kind of like, how about a house, right? Could you give me a house?
I could master a house.
Or maybe clothes to wear. How about that? But I knew enough because of years of practice that I had to trust those words that I heard. So even though it was uncomfortable, I chose to say, okay, then my intention is to master flexibility. That next year, I did not know this. So that's back to your first question.
Okay.
Like when we're in the midst of it, if we don't know what we're going to grow on the other side, if we only knew in the midst of it that something bigger was coming, that intention of flexibility moved me through. I moved 7 times in 1 year. I had no idea where I was going to meet clients at any given moment. And I still needed to meet my clients. So it'd be in a park, it'd be in a car, it'd be borrowing someone else's office. And I was moving those 7 times with 2 huge dogs, 2 huge bull mastiffs. So when people would say, Kim, you could stay here for a couple of days, I'm like, and I come with
2 big dogs,
250-pound dog. And they're like, it's okay. And people truly said, it's okay. We understand. But you have a place to sleep tonight. So to watch that unfold without my practice, I mean, I shed enough tears that I could have, sprouted a whole garden, and confusion of where do I go now? But the trust I leaned in every single day. It was like I could be crying and I'm still leaning in, like, okay, Spirit, show me now. What am I to know now? What is the highest good now? Whew, what is my intention?
I feel that right now.
Right?
I totally feel it.
It's a lot. And I remember a friend of mine was like, I went to my parents immediately, and a dear friend, she researched and she knows I love labyrinths. And she's like, there's a labyrinth on 14th and whatever street, get there and take it. And because she just knew I needed to get away. And I went to this labyrinth with my journal, a bottle of water, ready to just cry it all out. And I get there, and it happened to be a labyrinth that was made out of concrete. And I really needed to touch the earth. And then I sat in the middle of that labyrinth and burst into tears, like, okay, seriously, God, come on. I need something here, which led me down the street to a park to just sit there and just think and journal and process and keep going. So
practice, right, has been throughout this conversation, especially around moving through challenging times. You've referred to your practice and years of practice and what the practice is. Would you share with us some of your most cherished? Like, what is your daily practice? What would you share as for folks that I noticed there were some comments on here, like I'm a first timer, and like what would you share as some of the most profound and effective practices that you use daily?
Intention is one of my favorites, of course, because intention is our guiding light. First timers, there's always a beginning. So I ask individuals, like, what connects you to source? That's like to find our practice, because some people say, Kim, I don't want to call it a spiritual practice. Well, it's a practice of self-care. So what connects you to source? My clients who are surfers, when they're in the ocean, that's a practice for them. I have clients who are meditating on their surfboard. That's their practice. I have other clients who go hiking in the mountains like I do. That's a practice. Anything that connects you to spirit source and you remember who you are. So mine consists of prayer first thing in the morning. I get pulled out of bed and am called outside. So before the house burned down, I was always called to this beautiful heart I built outside. And so I literally get out of bed, walk straight outside. And my prayers were always stated with my bare feet on the ground, because I wanted to connect with the earth. And I still do. I go to the beach. I just get up, walk straight to the beach, get my feet in the water and start praying. And I walk up and down that shore, praying out loud for all my clients, for Rhythmia, for everyone in my life, for the world, every day. So prayer is right there every day. Meditation, daily meditation, my spiritual reading. JJ and I have really great books that we'll find and go, hey, did you read this one today? So those stack is next to my bed. My journaling, my nightly acknowledgements, gratitudes. I have a lot of practices.
Those are great practices. Acknowledgements. I love you shared that. I went to one of your retreats, the day retreat a couple years ago. And I loved the acknowledgement practice.
Yes.
So will you share a little bit about acknowledgement practice?
I will, and you'll get a long version when you're in class at Rhythmia too.
Hey,
so it's just come to Rhythmia. Our acknowledgement practice, it's the last chapter of the book, and it's for a purpose, is that I find that often on the human realm, especially when we've had more years on the planet, lots of times the chatter of what we think we should be doing, or the harsh critic, whatever we want to call it, inside of our head, takes up more space than our self-love at times. And when we have an acknowledgement practice to daily write down 5 acknowledgements of just, today I acknowledge myself for fulfilling my intention and being with you. Today I acknowledge myself for getting up early and making sure I had my exercise done before I got here. Today I acknowledge myself for returning those calls that needed to be returned. Any little thing. Every acknowledgement is an act of self-love.
Yes.
It's an act of self-love. And every time you acknowledge yourself, you kick judgment out the door. So the chatter doesn't have as much room to live any longer, which once we start expanding that we're seeing ourselves rightly and the chatter is starting to leave, then just imagine all that we can fulfill more of our truest nature because we're being kinder to ourselves. That's a consolidated experience.
I love that. And I'll tell you from my own personal experience, and I think everybody listening can acknowledge, it's if I ask anyone, tell me 10 things that are wrong with you, easy. Tell me 10 things that you love about yourself.
Great example, JJ.
Not so hard, not so easy to do, right? And I think that's the beauty of
this
practice of acknowledgement that you've brought forth. Kim Stanwood Terranova, I was just like my sister, my friend, my mentor, my teacher, my colleague, my buddy, like just all of it. I'm so grateful for you. I'm so grateful for this time, and that we get to walk this path together.
That's so great.
And we're here at Rhythmia.
We are.
So come see us.
Come see us soon, because we're here all the time, and would love to keep this conversation going. So thank you.
Thank you for joining us, everyone. Knowing absolutely that each one of us is sourced by this power that's everywhere present and has no limits and is inexhaustible, and that we are surrounded by this infinite love that just guards us and guides us and girds us, and that each one is connected to this divine mind, this one intelligence that is expressing. I love the example, spinning the planet without human compulsion or interference. We need not worry about a thing. I know this for each one. I know this and stand in this truth. I'm so grateful to you, Kim. Thank you to everyone for joining us for Rise Up. Yes. Would you like to say anything?
Just bless you.
Yes.
So much. Thank you for being here.
Totally threw that over there. Love you all. Peace and richest blessings. And we'll see you next week. Yay. Or Saturday. See Kim Saturday.
Join me Saturday.
I Got My Miracle.
Yep.
All right. Ciao.